Today on Conversations That Convert, we're going to talk about slot selling, a builder's secret weapon. So let's get started.
Welcome to Conversations That Convert. Every week, we'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes tackling relevant lead generation, marketing, and sales topics for remodelers, home improvement companies, and home builders. Conversations That Convert is brought to you by Builder Lead Converter, your perfect sales assistant. And now, here's Rick and Diana.
Welcome, everyone. Diana is off today, but we still have a great, exciting episode for you. We're going to be talking about slot selling, a builder's secret weapon. And this is part of a brand new series we're bringing to you called How to Maximize Your Profit Margins. And the great news is that we have a special guest today. His name is Russ Stephens. So I want to introduce Russ from the Association of Professional Builders. Russ, you're coming to us live or almost live from Australia, correct?
That's right, Rick. Thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Russ, before we jump into it, who are you? How are you where you are? And what has been your journey through life to land here on Conversations That Convert and be having this conversation?
Sure. So my name is Russ Stephens from the Association of Professional Builders. I'm one of the co-founders of the Association of Professional Builders based here in Australia. And we are a membership that provides builders all over Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US with systems to manage and run their businesses more effectively.
Well, wonderful. And your co-founder, I believe, is Sky, your daughter. Is that correct?
That's right. We founded the Association of Professional Builders together back in 2014 with a very simple goal, really, and that was to improve the industry for both builders and consumers. And that's because we got a fundamental belief that builders deserve to be earning a lot more money than they're currently earning from building homes. Despite the myths out there that builders are earning a fortune, yeah, we know that's simply not true. And we believe they deserve to be earning a lot more than they currently are from construction. But we also believe that consumers deserve a far better experience than they're currently getting. And yeah, here's the thing, that those two things go hand in hand, because you cannot provide a world-class service on tiny margins. So that is why we are providing the systems that enable builders to systemize their business and operate more efficiently in order to deliver that better service.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely, we're on the same page here. So let's jump into that. This is a series called How to Maximize Your Profit Margins. I mentioned this thing called slot selling, but just give us a definition right now of what exactly is it?
Yes, so slot selling, this is the process of setting up start dates in advance. So a builder would always start the year with a plan, whether that's a calendar year or a financial year. But generally, anyone in business will always have a plan for the next year, even the next 3 years, as to what they're looking to achieve with their business. But when they look at the next 12 months and they look at the budget they set, it's very easy to then work back and be very clear on the number of jobs that need to be starting within that year and spreading those start dates out throughout the year. Now, what that does, that gives you a balanced funnel. But what it does in terms of sales is it limits the supply. And that's really important, because there's two key things that you need in order to be able to sell successfully, and that is scarcity and urgency. And that's exactly what slot selling gives you. It gives you that scarcity and urgency. So a builder will look at the year ahead. They'll know exactly what they're looking to achieve, and they will set up their slots, their construction slots in advance, and these are their available start dates. And the next most important thing is then to convey that information to the consumer. So the consumer is well aware that as they go through the sales funnel, it's not a case of the sales funnel will wait for them to be ready. No, we have these dates set in stone, And the only way that you can actually grab one of these slots is to sign a contract and pay a deposit. And that really is the key, because you only assign a slot to a consumer once they've done those two things, that they've signed the contract and paid the deposit. Until then, you never promise a slot and you never allocate a slot, and that's what gives you scarcity and urgency.
So Russ, I've always looked at sales as like where the tail wags the dog. In that, if we have sales, then the dog reacts. And what you're saying is, no, this is really the opposite. Is like, yeah, now the dog is going to wag the tail, and that the builder is going to determine how much I'm going to sell, and then we tell that to the consumer, and we simply say to the consumer, if you would like to have your home built, have your home remodeled, this is what you need to do, and you will be one of umpteen people this year that we will serve. And if you're interested, this is how it works.
Yeah. Couldn't have put it better myself. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because if we look back maybe 12, 13 years ago, that is when the sales process was flipped on its head, and the power went from the seller to the consumer because of the internet. And that wasn't just in construction. We saw it in car sales, and a lot of industries were affected by the internet, where all this information was available online and consumers could then do their research without having to speak to anyone. And that really spun the balance of power on its head. And when you introduce slot selling, it actually brings the power, the control back to the seller. And what you said was spot on. You're conveying that information. We have these slots available. Those ones have already been taken, and we have X amount of clients coming through the funnel. So if we can get you to this point in the sales process by this time, we should be able to get you on that slot, and it helps to keep the consumer focused.
Yep, exactly. One of the questions I always used to that I would coach my clients to ask is, then when you're having that conversation with the lead and you're just about ready to talk about slots, is instead of asking them when they want to get started, you ask them, how soon do you want to be living in and enjoying your new home or your new space? Because no one's in a hurry to get started, but everyone knows when they want to be done. And so now, with scheduling challenges, with supply chain issues, with labor challenges, it takes a long time to get through that. And so if you can show them right up front, look, if you want to be here, this is what you need to do now, because we have this much of work ahead of us. Oh, and by the way, we only have one slot available for this particular month. So you can create that urgency immediately and get someone to go ahead and really expedite that sales process, instead of going back and forth and doing the traditional, I'll get back to you, let's follow up, let's schedule another meeting sort of thing.
Absolutely. You have to take control. You have to assume nothing and explain everything, because we all suffer from the curse of knowledge, don't we? We assume people will realize how long it will take and what the next steps are. But no, we have to lay this out very clearly and communicate everything to our prospect.
Well, it's an excellent definition of slot selling. I think anyone listening now will, understand how it works. So I always laugh, because it's one thing to theoretically say, hey, this is how it works, but this is another way to actually do it. And the thing I love about Association of Professional Builders is that you guys actually put together a course and all the nitty-gritty details of it. So the beautiful news is that slot selling creates urgency through scarcity, but then there's always the challenge of implementing it. So what have you guys seen, first and foremost, as far as the problems that a typical builder that is not using slot selling, what problems does it solve for them right now?
Yeah, well, for the typical building company, one of the biggest challenges or problems that they come up against is procrastination. And this is because the sales process is just so long in our industry. It really does lead to people second guessing themselves. Maybe that little doubt kind of creeps in, which leads to procrastination. And another challenge that or problem that they face is the lowest price scenario, where consumers believe they need to go to 3 or even more builders and collect a load of quotes for a massive project, and they're collecting quotes that they don't really understand what they're reading when they look at them. So they compare the one thing they do understand, which is price. So builders are coming up against this challenge where they're putting a lot of work into the front end of the sales process, producing a detailed quote. The consumer looking at that quote won't understand the difference between that comprehensive quote that they've produced versus a 2 or 3 page quote with a load of allowances in. And then also they'll come up against procrastination. But by using construction slots, they can overcome procrastination because they can keep the momentum moving. They keep the prospect focused on the end goal. And it's exactly what you said, Rick. It's focusing on, when do you want to be enjoying your new home? When do you want to be living this lifestyle? They can stay focused on that because, of course, with construction slots, you not only have your start dates, but you have your finish dates as well. So it comes home very clearly. But also, we as a species, we all want scarce resources. So the builder that has a finite supply and limited supply, becomes naturally in demand as well, because it's just the way we're built. And as you can imagine, when those slots fill up and the builder is not available to start for 9 or 12 months, that becomes the builder in demand. People are prepared to wait for that builder rather than sign up with someone that has abundance of availability. It's just the way we're built. It's weird, but it certainly works.
And that's a true testament. I can tell you that one of the tools that we use for our clients is something called database reactivation, where we simply go back into cold leads, old leads, dead leads, and we just shake the bushes, if you will, and just see who's out there. And we just had a client, a remodeling client, that had someone come and said, oh, hey, we want to do an addition, we want to do in a kitchen. And my client said, you know what, right now, this is January of 2022 as we're recording this, and this is when we did the reactivation. My client said, I'm sorry, but we're booked out until 2023. And he says, well, that's okay, we'll wait. It was a year out, but exactly like you said, is that, oh, if you're booked out that far, then you must be the person to go to. I want to make sure that I have you do my project.
Yeah, we hear this story all the time in marketing, don't we, with restaurants? You go to a new town, you walk out of your hotel, you look at 2 restaurants, one's got a queue and the other one's empty. I mean, you go and queue up. It's
we all want what we can't have.
Exactly.
For sure. So that's the problems it solves. So pricing is a big one, obviously, and we're always fighting that. We're trying to deal with it, like you said, a very complex issue, and the clientele does not understand really what it is, and so they just use the lowest common denominator, which is the lowest price. I came up with a term a few years ago called commodification. We're looked at as commodities, and we're simply saying, oh, you're the same, you're the same, you're the same, so who's got the lowest price? But on the builder side of it too, there are unscrupulous builders out there that will buy a bid too. So they'll purposely go in and they'll throw in a low bid, understanding that, and then figure they'll just make it up as they go forward. So slot selling obviously does solve that, and you're so right as far as people want what they can't have, and they're willing to wait for it to get what they perceive to be the best. So with that said, let's move on. Okay, so again, challenges. So we know what the problems it solves, we know what it is. Now, what are the challenges and pitfalls to slot selling that you have seen?
Yes, well, once a builder understands the concept behind slot selling and they decide to implement it, one of the biggest challenges that they will typically face is one of discipline, and that is sticking to your plan, sticking to your slots, because we can all get a little bit excited over sales, and we may think we're going to bring a slot forward to make this client happy. Maybe they won't sign if I stick to my guns and I can't start their job for 3 months and they want it started straight away. Maybe I'll just pull that forward. Maybe it won't matter too much because I'm still going to do the same number of jobs, or maybe they fill their allocation. They think, well, I'll just do an extra one, that will be fine. But the problem when you do that is you lose integrity, you lose respect, from your marketplace. So it's a very, very dangerous game to play. So I'd say the biggest challenge is to be very disciplined and stick to your guns, regardless, and don't make any assumptions in your head about whether someone will wait or not. Explain the situation to them, and you will demonstrate professionalism and integrity. And of course, the pitfalls are not sticking to your guns and actually saying, yes, I can do that. The consumer will know in the background that you've previously told them one thing. Now you're buckling very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That can then lead to procrastination. It can backfire spectacularly. And maybe you won't just lose that deal. They're going to tell other people as well. They had a bad feeling. Maybe they couldn't put their finger on it, but something wasn't quite right. So, in terms of the in terms of implementing this, you must stick to your guns. You have to be disciplined.
So Russ, the challenges, and the whole reason we're talking about slot selling today is, I mean, my contention is that it's easier than ever now to implement slot selling because market forces has forced us to do that. I mean, we have supply chain issues, we have a dramatic shortage of labor, everything is taking longer, and so every builder that I know, regardless of their size of what they did in 2020 is or 2021, is really looking at this year, perhaps even in 2023, is that the challenges of trying to do more units than they did the previous year are astronomical. And it seems like supply chain things, it's like every day it's something new. Labor, it's getting more and more difficult to find that. So I can see though that you have all these leads coming in this demand, and as a builder I want to say yes, so I'm trying to stay disciplined, saying, well, I can only do this much. But is there a way or any advice you would give to a builder that does want to try to grow down the road? Like, if you know that you're saying, you said I'm going to do X amount of slots each month for this year, when do you get to a point where you can say, I'm going to increase that by 1 or 2 slots and grow with that particular form of selling?
Yeah, well, that is all part of your annual planning, which can be revised quarterly as well, but as long as it's planned in advance. But typically, you would do it once a year. You would look at the year ahead, and if you've got a 3 or a 5 year growth plan, then obviously your revenue will be increasing by whatever you plan to grow by, whether that's 20 or 30% a year. And once you've done that, you then set your construction slots to support those budgets that you forecast. So naturally your construction slots go up. But the beauty of planning them in advance is the spacing, and this is critical because when we take on, we get a lot of jobs signing at one time. We end up with these bulges going through the construction funnel, and that is just simply inefficient. A builder that does 12 homes a year that might be faced with 5 homes at handover within a 3-week period, that's a disaster because it just leads to inefficiency, a strain on their resources, and a poor client experience, which can hurt them for years to come. So by balancing out their start dates, they effectively balance out all stages of the construction funnel, which means they can use their preferred subcontractors all the way through. But it also means one of the most labor intensive parts of the whole construction process, internally at least, is that handover process. And it means they're not going to be stretched, which means they can deliver probably one of the most important steps for a builder. And that is an exceptional professional handover to the client.
Yeah, we want, I've been saying in videos before this, is you build a tribe of people that know about your business. I hear a lot in this industry about branding, and branding takes millions of dollars and years of advertising to really develop a brand like a Nike or a Coca-Cola or some big brand name. But smaller businesses like home builders and remodelers, I would use the term, I guess I stole this from Seth Godin. He calls it a tribe. When you have a tribe, you have about 1,000 people following you. And the question that I've always thrown out there is, what do you want to be known for? What do you want your tribe to know you for? In other words, if you build a certain caliber of home or in a certain location or a certain motif, you want to get referrals from your clients for that type of product. You want to be known for that. And I can see where you're coming from, and this happens all the time, right? We have this roller coaster of a business cycle, and we make all these sales, then we put things into production, and then all of a sudden everything comes due at once, and the job superintendents are scrambling, and the clients are calling us up saying, hey, can I move up my closing by a week so I can coordinate with my moving and selling my other home? And so often we want to say yes. It's just human nature to say yes, and we lose that discipline you're talking about. How much easier it would be really is just to say, we're going to start your home on this date, and we anticipate taking this long as far as the scheduling, and we'll close on this particular date. You only have to deal with one at a time. If you're a smaller builder, or maybe it's five at a time if you're a larger builder, what have you. But going back to my initial question, so what I think I hear you saying is, if I have a huge backlog of leads and I'm thinking I want to put into a growth plan, then what I want to do is I essentially want to backlog my slots through whatever calendar year or whatever fiscal year that I'm using. And then in the following year, if I want to hire some more people or perhaps bring on some more subcontractors or suppliers where I can then add slots, I would do it at that point. So I start backlogging for that next year, maybe 6, 9, or even 12 months in advance. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look, I think you've hit a very important point here. Growth has to be planned, and using slot selling is just one component of that plan. So when we do decide that we're going to grow by X amount during the next 12 months, we need to be looking at all of our KPIs, managing those KPIs through the year, but looking at them to think, okay, well, if we are going to increase our sales or our production by this amount, we're going to need X amount of sales. We're going to need Y amount of opportunities, maybe prelims. If we're using a structured sales process, we'd be looking at how many prelims we need to be getting signed up at which point in that process. We'll be looking at concepts, the whole design process. We'll be looking at the number of qualified opportunities that we need to generate, because we understand our conversion rates for each of these steps. Then we'll be looking at the number of leads, the number of leads that we need to be generating from our marketing. And then once we understand that, we know how much we need to be spending on marketing to support these construction slots that we got set over here. So once we do a plan, we can really take it down to one simple number. How much do I need to be investing in my business on advertising and marketing to produce this result, which is going to be a lot further down the track. You can't just, turn it on January the 1st of the year and think this is what's going to happen. This is a long sales cycle. We need to have a lot of this in place. So when we actually start planning our budget for the year and our construction slots, we already know what we're likely to be able to achieve based on what's been happening in our sales and marketing funnel over the past 6 months. But all these numbers are linked, and this isn't always easy for a lot of guys to kind of look at and understand. It's why we spend a lot of time with our members going through their plan, tweaking, optimizing, revising it.
So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. I'm building a spec home versus a pre-sold customer home. I'm using slot selling. Do I treat that spec home any different than my customer's home? Because oftentimes spec homes are the redheaded stepchild, right? Of builders. It's like, well, if it could be pushed off, do something different. But what's your philosophy?
Well, it's remembering that the problem or what slot selling solves. It solves two problems. It assists with the challenge in sales but it also assists with operations because it balances your funnel. So it's a really important point that you brought up, because you will need to factor in any spec homes that you're doing into these slots as well. Otherwise, you'll end up with an unbalanced funnel. You'll end up with the bulge going through the funnel, putting stress on your resources, leads to inefficiency. And that is what really helps to destroy a builder's net profit. You really need a balanced, optimized funnel, ideally doing very similar type projects. So I know there's a lot of builders, will come to us, and they might focus predominantly on custom homes, but then they'll take on a few renovations, a few small jobs to kind of plug the gaps. But that's not efficient for a building company, to get margins. You want to be doing as similar jobs as you possibly can. It's like this manufacturing production line, although being custom, we know that's they're not cookie cutter, but you understand what I'm saying. As similar as you can get them, the more efficient you can get.
Yeah, I think it's, when you really get into those KPIs with your clients and you help them understand there are certain jobs that you're good at and you make good money at. And then there's other jobs that you're not so good at and or you don't make so good money at. And being able to eliminate those other jobs, it frees up time to bring on more of the right type of opportunities and with the right margins. And it's really it takes discipline as well, just to be able to say no to somebody, because as an entrepreneur, you want to bring on all the business you can, but not only to say I'm not going to start more than this many jobs each month, but also say I'm going to make sure I fill these slots with the right opportunities. And I'd say the catastrophic mistake that we make right now is that we take a bad opportunity, and it could be in a bad location and a bad profit margin, and we use one of our precious slots for that. That's opportunity cost right there. We lose the opportunity to make that revenue and margin.
Absolutely. And that one bad project that you take on can drain 80% of your resources, your time, your focus, your energy. It can have a disastrous effect.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into anybody who's watching this saying, well, geez, Russ, is it beneficial to me? I'm this builder, or I'm this remodeler, I only do this many units a year, or does it work for all builders?
Yes, we introduced slot selling around about 5 or 6 years ago now to our members, and we've seen it work in all sizes of building companies and all types of building companies. So whether you're doing remodeling work, or you're building new homes for first home buyers, or high-end custom homes, it really doesn't matter on the type of work that you're doing. We even have some commercial guys, or guys that have evolved into commercial work. They still use construction slots in that area of their business. So it doesn't matter what type of work you're doing, but also it really doesn't matter if you're just starting out. You still need a plan of what you're going to do, because if you basically start out with the idea that you'll do whatever you can grab, you're on the back foot already. So if you're starting out, this is the process you need to use. And equally, as you grow, you've got to be using this process as well. We got builders. I met with one a couple of weeks ago that he's doing 60 million a year now. He started out with us 4 years ago doing 3 million. There was just him and one other person. I went to his offices. They're spectacular now. The people that he's got all set up. He's doing 60 million, but he told me he now wants to cap at 60 million, certainly for the next 12 months at least, while he now focuses on getting his net profit up to the benchmark, and then he'll go again. So again, the way he's controlling that is through construction slots, and that obviously has to be supported by a robust sales process that not only conveys the availability to prospects, but it also sets you up to how you deal with those people that have maybe missed out on a slot that they want, so you can deal with them professionally and still have your reputation intact.
Yeah, very, very true. Communication has become such an important element as we've seen our construction schedules get pushed and pushed and pushed and lengthened. Is that you can no longer communicate like you used to because there's just, unfortunately, sometimes you can have days, if not weeks, that go by and there's just not a whole lot happening. You maybe already have it built into your schedule because of supply chain problems or the limited labor, but we have to be communicating with those clients week in and week out, even if there's nothing happening, to let them know that things are moving forward. We're just in a bit of a holding pattern, until we get to this next milestone.
Absolutely.
And so, Russ, just to wrap up here, slot selling is really for everybody. We create urgency through scarcity. We deal with price issues that typically, where instead of being compared to three builders, people naturally gravitate towards what they can't have. So if they know that you're booked out 3, 6, 9, or 12 months, they're going to want to go for that because they think like you are the builder of choice. And you plan your growth about 12 months at a time, review it quarterly. But as you do want to grow, you just add slot schedules into your next quarter or next year, excuse me. And then you are able to start out early with your lead generation and your marketing to make sure you have enough leads to be able to fill those additional slots as you grow. Is that a fairly succinct summary?
That's an excellent summary. You are certainly paying attention there, Rick.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your expertise in sharing this with us. So if a builder wants to know more about the Association of Professional Builders, what would you suggest they do? Where do they look for you?
Well, we recently launched a book containing all of our strategies covering marketing, sales, operations, construction financials. And that book was called Professional Builders Secrets. It's available on Amazon. So if your listeners are also readers, then I would highly recommend getting that book. If they prefer to listen, which I'm guessing that's maybe the case because we are on a vlog here, we have a podcast by the same name, Professional Builders Secrets. So yeah, if you prefer to listen rather than read, then we have industry interviews. We have builders sharing their stories, and we share a lot of tips on our podcast. But if you'd like to find out more about the Association of Professional Builders and what we offer our members, Googling the Association of Professional Builders, which will take you to our website, you'll be able to see a behind the scenes demo of exactly what the resources that our members are enjoying when they join the association as a member.
And I will put links for your book and for the podcast as well as your website right below the video here, wherever you are watching it. Check out those links. So Russ, thank you again so much for joining us today. And I did want to let anyone know that anyone's interested in the Association of Professional Builders, if you want to schedule a strategy call with me, that we will book 20 qualified lead appointments for you for zero cost and zero ad spend, so you can start looking into the slot scheduling yourself. So thanks again very much, Russ. I appreciate it. And everyone, check out Association of Professional Builders. Check out those links below.